Hello, Contrarians, listeners, watchers, subscribers. Here we are with the latest Contrarians warm-up. And this one is for our Some Like It Hot episode. Billy Wilder strikes again with his super popular, super fresh movies. The movies that if we don't like them, then suddenly we're not cinephiles. We're not real ones. We've in the past we've handled Double Indemnity and The Apartment. On the main feed, and then on the Patreon feed I did a quick video review for Sunset Boulevard. So yeah, we have a history with Mr. Wilder, all fresh on our main feed. I wonder if there's a Billy Wilder movie that's rotten. That'll be the real challenge.
That's the white whale.
Yeah, we'll look into that and get back to you, but for now this is unsurprisingly super fresh. Some Like It Hot. The combination of Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, and Tony Curtis adds up to a 95%, right? Certified fresh.
Yes.
Seal, stamp of approval.
It does have the logo. Yeah, 95%.
It's like it or be shamed. But because it's fresh on the main feed on Contrarians Corner, we're going to talk about it as if it was a bad movie. And then, we'll tell you how we really feel. But here, as we do in every warm-up, we're going to give you some extra Rotten Tomatoes quotes that didn't make it to the episode, some extra trivia, we're going to talk about the trailer, and of course the Josh Gad Minute. So let's get started with the quotes, Alex, and actually we'll get started with the consensus, which says, "Some Like It Hot, a spry, quick-witted farce that never drags." Do you think they use the word drags there because our protagonists spend 75% of the movie in drag?
You would have known they did if it's in capitalized letters.
It isn't. Okay. Not even quotation marks. No. I think
so whoever wrote that, a week after the fact was like, fuck.
Can I edit? Can I go back? Let's start with the quotes. We have Anupama Chopra from Film Companion, who says, "Some Like It Hot was released in 1959, but its effervescence and sparkle are timeless. I guarantee that it will make you laugh out loud." Alex, when was the last time you used the word effervescence in a sentence?
I don't know.
Were you describing a movie or were you describing a drink?
Effervescent, there's a line where it shows Barney from The Simpsons, like how intelligent he was in high school until Homer snuck him a beer. And he's like, I think he's studying for the SATs and he's like trying to think of a word and he's like, effervescent, writes it down. So that's what I always think of when I hear that word.
Well, Anupama Chopra must have really liked that episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah,
wrote it down.
Put it in their back pocket and held on to it.
Yeah. It will make you laugh out loud. Some Like It Hot. Except maybe when people are being murdered in cold blood, which happens more than once in the movie, surprisingly.
Yes.
This will come back when we talk about the trailer. Next. Matt Patches from Polygon says, "The madcap energy is right up there with Bridesmaids or 30 Rock, and it's a shame to imagine that its black and white veneer would keep people away." Did you
Very odd comparisons there.
Yes. Did it ever cross your mind? Bridesmaids, 30 Rock, while you were watching it?
Dude, we talk about our boy P-Bog in the episode. You'd get more street cred if you said, it's like, What's Up, Doc? Or, some of the screwball comedies that's based on. I guess that review wanted to relate it to something modern, so young
for
people.
The youths.
There are people I've encountered in my life that it just blows my mind that write off any movie that's in black and white, that just think that it's too old and what are they going to do with it? I'm like, you ever heard of this movie Freaks? That'll scare you more than any movie you can find in color.
So
also, by the way, not for the performers, but the story of that movie and the ending of that movie is quite shocking.
Yeah, actually, you need to do what was it called? The Misfits? Not the Misfits. The Donald Pleasance movie that we did that was kind of like
the
second
Mutations?
cousin. Yeah, the Mutations.
Yeah.
Build up to it with the Mutations, which is also black and white, and then you go to Freaks.
And Mutations isn't black and white,
isn't it?
I don't think so.
Is it just the poster that was black and white? I think maybe when I was pulling stills, screenshots for the episode.
Oh yeah, that's old timey. That movie still would have been in the day of lobby cards and shit. So yeah, because I remember some of the reveals and they're like, but still an adequate double feature.
Yeah. Start with the Mutations, then Freaks, and then to calm yourself down, Some Like It Hot.
Yes.
They're like, you just won't care if it's in black and white. But I like that theory, Alex, that this reviewer, Matt Patches, he was like, I gotta connect to the people that would say no to a black and white movie. So I'm going to grab stuff that they're probably familiar with and have positive connotations. So Bridesmaids and 30 Rock, sure, they both have John Hamm, so that works.
To be clear, this is better than Bridesmaids, and I can't compare. I love 30 Rock. It's one of my favorite shows ever. I can't really compare that to a 2-hour movie.
Can you?
But I get it.
I can't. I mean, yes, in the very basic level of they're funny, you could just say, yeah, it's like these movies, but I don't know how else you draw like a line where like this is like 30 Rock, like Dr. Specimen. Is that the
Spaceman, Dr.
Specimen?
Spaceman. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine him? Like, can you translate any character from 30 Rock into?
No.
Yeah, and even less so, I think, with Bridesmaids. Anyway, final quote. Matt Brunson from Film Frenzy says the film's final line is legendary, though I have a soft spot for Jerry's description of a sachet in sugar. Look at that. Look how she moves. That's just like Jello on springs. Alex.
That's what it was.
Yes.
We thought it was two different references, or he made two different comments, but it was, it was spring-loaded Jello, and then something about a mechanism in her body.
Yeah, that's Jack Lemmon talking about Marilyn Monroe in a very respectful, for the time, manner.
Yeah, that's as a fellow ass man myself, I relate greatly to Jack Lemmon in this particular scene of the movie.
You've improved your vocabulary. Now you have one more way of paying compliment to a woman that's open to that type of compliment.
This has to be up there with Patrice O'Neill had a great bit about like the white man face when he sees a really nice ass. I mean, he's like, just do something like that. And but I was thinking about legendary moments in television and film where someone checks out someone's ass, and like this we have in No Holds Barred where I can't remember the woman's name in that movie. Joan Severance, maybe. That
You're
poor
asking
woman.
too much of me at this point.
There's a part where she like looks over and you see Hulk's ass, and he's like doing push-ups and shit. It's like, oof. But no, this would be equivalent to Dumb and Dumber with the whoa, check out the butt on that. Yeah, he must work out.
Does it apply the other way around? Like, would you be able, with Patrice or whatever her name was in the whole bar, would she be able to tell
Joan
Hogan?
Severance?
Yeah, would she be able to tell Hogan, man, your butt is just like Jello on springs? Will he take offense?
Well, Hogan would be worried why someone was looking behind him, to roll him up from behind. Like, brother, what? But yeah, Hogan just doing the rip him.
Anyway, Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis probably canceled in 2025 if they try to pull this shit. But back in the late 50s.
Now I have to question: do you think Jack Lemmon ever saw No Holds Barred?
I mean, technically, he could have.
Possible, yeah. On a really long plane when they just were like circling through the dreck that the studios threw off. Like, what the fuck is this?
Off recording, when we were in between something, Alex blew my mind by telling me that Jon Stewart is a wrestling fan. And so now, yeah, Jack Lemmon could be a wrestling fan. Maybe he liked Hulk Hogan and he just followed his cinematic career. I mean, you never know.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes. Anyway, to some trailer chatter. Let's talk about the trailer. This old-timey trailer. I think last time when we did The Apartment, the last Billy Wilder movie that we did, it was something similar with the...
Very similar. Long like clips that would be, now trailers are just like fucking like diced up. It's like a hibachi restaurant. But now it was just, or then, excuse me, it was long clips, long snippets of the music that's used in the movie.
Yes.
And a lot of Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, and Marilyn Monroe.
No, it's Marilyn Monroe and then everything else. They sell it as a Marilyn Monroe movie primarily. And it's funny because she doesn't show up until 20-30 minutes in, right?
I think they say something like more comedy, more something, more Marilyn, and it's that shot of her butt. Like,
It used to be different. they also they closed the trailer by saying Marilyn Monroe and her bosom buddies or
Mm-hmm.
something, right? And
They definitely, you know, in addition to Marilyn Monroe just being the hottest thing on the planet at that point, they definitely promise a lot of comedy. That's what they keep saying, like throughout, like the funniest movie, the biggest, that like there's at one point it says the biggest comedy ever. Yeah, that promising, you know, it'll have you laughing, and they're just short of like saying, call your neighbors and tell them now to go see something like it hot.
watch it now. There's also, I mean, they don't shy away from mentioning the violence. And I said we would circle back to this because before you even see anything funny, you see the gangsters mowing down a bunch of people.
Oh, that's right, because they say not since Scarface has
Yeah.
there been so much violence, and not since the Marx Brothers so much comedy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Together for the first time, violence and comedy. Uh, they don't really get Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis don't really get to do much in the trailer. I mean, they each get one sequence. Jack Lemmon gets the one where Marilyn gets in bed with him, and she thinks that he's a woman, and then Tony Curtis gets the one where Marilyn is on top of him, kissing him and trying to get him to react. Those are their big contributions to the trailer, and then the rest of the time they're just watching her. Just reacting to her body and her dancing and her voice, which I guess is how most of the audience would be anyway. But she gets to do a whole lot. We get to see her one of her musical numbers, and the one where she's playing the banjo and the ukulele. Yeah. Sorry, classier than the banjo.
Yes,
and singing and dancing, and it's pretty cool. It's in the movie.
Everything
that you see in the trailer is in the movie.
If I remember correctly, that's her first musical number in the movie too.
Yes, and then just cut to Curtis and Lemmon just like staring. It's relatable, let's say. And then we close out with the supporting cast, the other people, right? And also, man, I don't know, the guy that plays the character that's in love with Jack Lemmon at the end. Brown, right? The last name is Brown, I think.
Osgood, was that what it?
Well, Osgood is in the movie, but the actor is something Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joey Brown.
Yes, who I didn't say it in the episode, but when I saw him for a moment, I thought, is that Ray Walston? Because Ray Walston next year would be in the apartment, and they kind of have the same facial structure and, in a way, the same horniness. I think in the movie. But no,
Queen Latifah.
Yeah, and nobody gets the introducing credit here or the end. But anyway, fun trailer for like its time. You have to watch it in the context of, well, this was late 50s, early 60s. Today,
long before speculation began, and the movie just told you flat out what it is.
Yes,
like, here it is. You'll laugh. You'll look at Marilyn. Coming this fall.
Yeah, I guess the trailer lets you make the assumption that there's a reason why they're in drag. Right, like you can assume they're running away from gangsters. So I guess
they promise violence, but they don't say how the two like blend together.
Yeah, just in running away. But I mean, it makes it as much sense as it can make. It does in the movie. Check out the trailer. Why not?
Yeah,
I think it's probably more fun if you've seen the movie because then you can just like But back in the day, it was probably very successful, and it led to this movie being successful as well. Now, before we go to the trivia, Alex, the Josh Gad Minute. We're going to put a hat on Josh Gad, and we're going to send him back to the late 50s to be part of this gangster/comedy. Gangster movie/gangster comedy. Where do you put Josh Gad?
That's the one. I mean, one of the obvious things is because of Josh Gad's like abilities. He could easily be Daphne or Josephine. The problem is, this movie's a tricycle, and you need all three wheels to make it work the way it does. And I would have to I like Tony Curtis in this, but I would just default to him because I like Jack Lemmon so much, and I don't want to take him out. But I think Josh Gad, some of the comedic beats, he could really hit that are asked of him in that regard.
Man, I would really appreciate Marilyn Monroe going for Josh Gad.
Yeah,
would be because Tony Curtis is more traditionally, he's the stud. But if you pair Gad and Lemmon, then it's really like, who's she gonna go for? Because they're both kind of like offbeat, not your traditional leading romantic lead. So that'll be pretty cool.
So then that leaves the opening for him to possibly be Osgood. You could have Josh Gad be the millionaire that
Yeah.
is enchanted by Jack Lemmon. But honestly, I thought, as I typically side with Gad instead of giving him a major role in it, just by I do the rattlesnake principle of just a little bit of venom will get you. I would have him be Toothpick Charlie, the guy who turns in spats.
He gets
And so, yeah, he
murdered.
gets gunned down in the first act, but we would say that Josh Gad's Toothpick Charlie. I mean, that'd be fun.
What if we
Or
put
you could just spin that on its head, and he could be Spats. He could be the mob boss.
that too? I was gonna jump to the cop. I was like, what if he's on the side of the law, and so he's the
Not enough fun.
but that's the thing. He's not as much the guy that we got in the movie. He's fine. I mean, he does the job, but he's not like a funny character. So what if you made the
That's
cop
true.
fun, right? And it's Josh Gad, and now he's just you know always arriving late to the crime scene, just out of breath, just after all the murders have happened.
Always with flop sweat.
Yeah.
And it could make that moment too with the where he doesn't know it's an opera last name. Josh Gad could deliver that pretty well. I think that this is all to say there's a lot of opportunity for Gad in this.
Yeah, and he wouldn't feel out of place because I think he can pull off the period appropriate appearance. I guess
Agreed.
you just dress him properly. And he was in that remake of Murder in the Orient Express, and that's how I'm picturing him. In fact, you might remember this, Alex. I took the Josh Gad part of that standee because that standee when we worked at the theater, that was every character.
Oh yeah, he's got the little pencil stash on.
Yes,
it.
He does. And I was like, I can't take everybody. I wish I could, but I'm gonna take Gad. And he's in my closet because my wife doesn't like him being out, freaking people out. But he's in the closet, and I'll take him out for special occasions. So yeah, that kind of Gad, period piece Gad would be fun. All right, well that was the Josh Gad Minute. Now let's go to trivia.
First of all, I always have a hard time with this with my my ring light here, but talked about it in the episode. I had been to the Hotel Coronado and got this little mini poster of Marilyn during the recording of Some Like It Hot. It's I have if those who know me know I'm a bit of a collector, so I wouldn't say I have a Marilyn Monroe collection when you compare it to like my movies or my wrestling shit or like my MMA and boxing stuff, but I have a few little trinkets of Marilyn Monroe memorabilia sprinkled throughout my laundry room specifically, and that's part of it. So all right, Some Like It Hot was premiered in New York City on March 29th of 1959. It started making its way to the West Coast, premiering in Los Angeles on April 8th of 1959. Budget of $2.9 million with a box office return of just a little short of 50. It was a sensation for its time, as we discuss, based on Fanfare of Love, a 1935 film by Max Bronnett. It was a French comedy, yeah. I couldn't remember if it was also like a slash drama. We talk about it in the episode itself. This movie been influential as it pertains to the Hays Code and production code days of Hollywood. Kind of a little interesting tidbit there. It was one of the first 25 films entered for preservation in the National Film Registry. If that means anything to you, which it kind of should, because that's not quite the same as the Oscars. It's people saying, all right, put these in an underground bunker. So if everything dies in this world, at least whoever comes next, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's now.
It's right next to it. It's like Texas Chainsaw and then Some Like
It Hot. I think it's over 1,000. I think in movies they have, but it's a bit more exclusive than the Criterion collection. I would say.
You go underground. I wonder how many Marilyn Monroe movies there are. I wonder if this is the only one.
I don't know. We should go down that list sometime.
Yeah.
And then just like roast all of them. So part of this is towards the end of Marilyn Monroe's life. We talk about in the episode, this and Misfits were separated by only, 2 years in release. And she looked like she had aged 10 to 15 years in between those two. This was kind of at a rough patch, to say the very least.
The Misfits, by the way, great movie. We
Tremendous.
covered it on the Patreon channel, and it's very different from Summer Like It Hot, but you should
And
definitely
she's
watch
excellent in it too.
She's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. During filming, Monroe lacked concentration and suffered from addiction. This is when she was on her pills. She was constantly late to set and could not memorize many of her lines, averaging 30 to 40 takes for a single line, according to Tony Curtis. The line, "It's me, sugar," took 47 takes to get correct because Monroe kept getting the word order wrong, either saying sugar, it's me, or it's sugar, me. Curtis and Lemon made bets during the filming on how many takes she would need to get it right. 3 days were scheduled for shooting the scene with Shell Jr. and Sugar at the beach, as Monroe had many complicated lines, but the scene was finished in only 20 minutes. Monroe's acting coach, Paula Stratsberg, and Monroe's husband, Arthur Miller, both tried to influence the production, which Wilder and other crew members found annoying. So, even though it came out several years before this, The Prince and the Showgirl, the movie she made with Laurence Olivier, is the movie that is documented and in a very Inception style, a movie about making a movie. That's, of course, the shooting that My Week with Marilyn is based on,
Right.
which was based on a book. And that exact type shit that we're talking about there is portrayed, ad nauseum in that movie, of being late to set, acting coach, husband having a say in shit, getting lines wrong and not delivering, what the word order is supposed to be. But then also on the other side of that is just like this scene on the beach here. They gave it 3 days and she finished it in 20 minutes. There's the parts in that too where, it's the Jordan flu game, or, Cody Rhodes wrestling that Hell in a Cell with his pec completely torn off the bone. It's like she could still harness that thing that made her special, and in these rare instances, it's still really sad to read these stories, but it is fascinating to, not making light of it, but it makes it sound like that scene in Old School where Will Ferrell's doing the debate with James Carville, and he just snaps into it and does really well, and then he's like, oh, it's John Belushi, when he had his huge addiction problems on SNL, people always talked about that. He would show up and you think he was on death's door, and then get right into it. And so, that's what makes special performers.
No, it's kudos to her, and I guess to everybody working in the movie, because you can't tell, or at least I couldn't. Sometimes, when, and I didn't know about the specific problems she's had with this movie, but I knew enough about her history where I guess if I'm watching a Marilyn Monroe movie, my assumption is that it was a troubled production just because of, but when you're watching the movie, I don't think you can tell. I think that it might have taken 40 takes, but what you see on screen, it just shows a gifted performer, and you don't really, there's other instances where other actors or actresses, you can tell, you can just be like, oh, this is a little off. But in this case, I think she, whenever she got it right. And then Wilder and her co-stars were able to make everything work around that. So it's good.
Yeah, agreed. Wilder spoke in 1959 about making another film with Monroe. Quote, "I have discussed with my doctor and my psychiatrist, and they tell me I'm too old and too rich to go through this again." But Wilder also admitted, "My Aunt Minnie would always be punctual and never hold up production, but who would pay to see my Aunt Minnie?" He also stated that Monroe played her part wonderfully, which is just what we're saying.
Yeah.
Years later, he noted, "I think there are more books on Marilyn Monroe than there are on World War II, and there's a great similarity." Take from that what you will.
God.
The film's closing line, "Well, nobody's perfect," is ranked 78th on the Hollywood Reporter's list of Hollywood's 100 favorite movie lines. But it was never supposed to be in the final cut. Diamond and Wilder put it in the script as a placeholder until they could come up with something better, but they never did. You hear about that a lot with books, any type of writing. Someone, in a song puts in a placeholder lyric, and then it becomes the most famous part of the song and shit like that. Wilder's tombstone pays homage to the line by reading, "I'm a writer, but then nobody's perfect."
I can't think of a better. Of course, I can't because I just I'm assuming these guys were like working on this script for like months and they couldn't come up with anything better. And off the top of my head, I'm not going to come up with anything better. But the idea that you could come up with a better line than that in that situation is just, how could you not know that was perfect to begin with?
I guess I could see the idea of, fucking Billy Wilder and IAL Diamond. That was what a baller fucking IAL Diamond. Anyway, I could see them, it's really late and they're trying to just finish the page. And like, we'll have them just say, well, nobody's perfect. And then, we'll circle back to it. And then, in the morning light, booze and all the cigarettes have worn off and they read it like, that's perfect. And then, this movie is just what we said it was. It like critically is regarded as like one of the greatest movies of all time. Our buddy Raj said Wilder's 1959 comedy is one of the enduring treasures of the movies, a film of inspiration and meticulous craft. He gave it 4 stars out of 4, and it is included in his greatest movies lists. In 1998, it was ranked number 7 in a poll, Time Out's poll of top 100 films. Entertainment Weekly had it as number 9 on their list of 100 greatest movies of all time. So, we're not just making these things up in terms of saying it has like this very famous reputation about it. But it also, it was up for plenty of Academy Awards the year it came out as well. It's not just a beloved film. It was a critical darling as well. So nominated for Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, and Best Costume Design. Those last 3 there being, of course, when the Oscars still had the division of color films and black and white films.
So only 1 acting nomination.
Correct.
Who got it? Lemmon?
Jack Lemmon.
Okay. He gets, as discussed on the episode, he gets the more playful characters. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But kind of, no. I'm going to say I'm shocked that Marilyn didn't get it, but I think that's a performance that has grown in appreciation throughout the years. And
I think her as an actress has grown in appreciation over the years. Because we talk about the episode, like, it's not being dramatic or hyperbolic, a legitimate, like, sex god in the history of, like, human civilization. And so I think a lot of people, just chalked it up probably at that time to her just being really attractive and being like the hot thing on the streets. But yeah, she knew what she was doing when she got in there. It only took home 1 award, and that was Best Costume Design for black and white films. The issue, or I guess the titan that Some Like It Hot ran into was this was the year of Ben-Hur with Charlton Heston. The film taking home Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. So,
among others, right? Didn't Ben-Hur hold the record for a while until Titanic came along?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I just meant for the purposes of like what we were talking about.
The competition between those two.
Yeah. Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, and if I remember correctly, it like cleaned up on the technical awards. Yeah, Best Sound, Best Art Direction.
That's Jesus.
Best Cinematography. Best Film Editing, Best Costume Design for Color Films, Best Special Effects. Yeah. It was, it's kind of like anything that went up against Titanic. You're like, if it had been any other year, I would have had it. But Best Screenplay, who took that home? This again would have been Best Adapted Screenplay, which at that time they called Based on Material from Another Medium. Some Like It Hot lost to Room at the Top, based on the novel by the same name.
Not to be confused with View from the Top, the Gwyneth Paltrow movie where she's a flight attendant.
Oh man, that was North by Northwest. For some reason, I always thought that Cary Grant got a nomination for that, but he didn't. Jack Lemmon lost out to Charlton Heston. Alongside them were Lawrence Harvey for Room at the Top, Paul Money for The Last Angry Man, and James Stewart for Anatomy of a Murder. And since we're here, Simone Sigourney took home for Room at the Top, and Doris Day was nominated, Audrey Hepburn, Katharine Hepburn, and Elizabeth Taylor.
All the popular girls.
Mm-hmm.
While Marilyn is there just kind of, hey.
Can you imagine, though?
You're going to regret this in 50 years.
Dude, if Marilyn was in there and any of these other gals won, let's take the winner out of the equation. Doris Day, Audrey Hepburn, Katharine Hepburn, Elizabeth Taylor, and Marilyn Monroe. Imagine that was like the lineup for 1 year. That's like the 92 men's Olympic basketball team. So, I mean, what more is there to say? It's one of the most legendary American films ever made. And, to read of its troubled production also speaks to the vision of the director and the editing, to not let any of that bleed through. And yeah, I can't encourage you enough to watch this film if you haven't seen it before. It is on Criterion. I did mention that. So it's got both the National Film Registry and the they call it the Criterion Closet, that like bus that travels around.
Yeah.
So you can find it in both places.
But also, it's also on Tubi. So if you just salt of the earth person doesn't want any of those highfalutin artsy places to watch a movie, Tubi, just enjoy it with commercials. It'll be fine.
And then when you're done with that, check out our episode.
Yes, we talk about it as if it was a bad movie, and then we talk about it, with honesty. And I think you can tell that we are probably fine with it at the very least. So check out Some Like It Hot. Check out our episode. And then coming up next, Alex, coming up next, we are paying our debt. We're starting to pay our debt from last year's live stream. From one true classic to a modern classic. It's probably too soon. It's Steven Spielberg's remake of West Side Story. It's still too close in the rearview mirror to really call it a classic. But I mean, it did really well with Rotten Tomatoes and with critics. So we said that we would review it on the show if we hit a certain number of donations at last year's live stream for The Cure, and we did. So that's coming up next. Watch Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. It's fresh, so we're going to be a little mean to it before we tell you how we really feel. And Alex has been dreading this episode for almost a year, so it'll be fun.
I'll have to watch it in like 3 parts.
You can also watch the original West Side Story if you want to just be a complete geek about it and be able to get all the comparisons. But you don't have to. And even if you don't even watch the movie, we'll walk you through it. But that's coming up next. So until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Later, y'all.